All right, here we go. Okay, let's put that over here. Okay, so if you guys are here right now, judging by the title, yeah, we're going to be doing some behind the scenes late night animating. And And yeah, so I know I haven't talked about it in a while, but today, what you guys are going to be seeing is some behind the scenes of Shadowfall. And you know what? I don't think I have my chat up. Hold on 1 second, because I know you guys like to see that stuff. So hold on. Just bring this over here. Okay, then. So I pretty much got everything else set up right now. So I guess we'll just get right into it. So there we are. Okay. So I gotta split screen this right here. Okay, here we go. Okay. So pretty sure there's not a whole lot of people on. That's all right. Oops. You gotta remember to lock stuff. Okay, so which one is this? Okay, so it's that one. Okay, guys, I'm going to be going ahead and disconnecting the mic for a little bit. But if you guys have any questions, definitely ask in the text box, and I'll try to get back to you. But for right now, I'm just going to go ahead and concentrate on doing what I'm doing. All right, let's try this. All right, let's try this. Okay, can people hear me okay? If not, I'll try to adjust the levels a bit. Like I said, guys, and this is very still new to this. I'm just learning the curveball. All right. Hmm. No, I don't really play the Half-Life 2 role-playing servers. I know that I should because there's a lot of great stuff out there, especially on the role-playing servers. I've seen people play it before, um, but I personally never myself have ever played it. But one thing that I do do a lot though is I do play a lot of Sven co-op. I play a lot of synergies, so um, I do play a lot of the co-op games that are developed by the mod community. Yes, I know Bollocks as well. I don't know. It's funny. Everyone keeps saying it's like a he or a she. I really don't know what the gender status of whoever this person is, but I do know who they are. They are very big as far as the Half-Life game mod. Doesn't matter what. If it's Half-Life related, I know Bollocks always plays it and has some sort of video for it. But yeah, I know who that person is. I don't know them personally, but uh, any good Half-Life player or watcher or just any fan in general knows that they do a lot of the playthroughs of a lot of different mods and as well as the official Half-Life games. But yeah. Okay. As far as what I prefer for the Half-Life 2 retell, as far as the original story of the beta stuff, I actually do prefer both because there are certain elements that I like in both, and there are some things that I don't like in both. Um, I would say that because I know that and reinstated that we're going to be reintroducing a lot of the beta elements that were from the beta from 2003. A lot of the things that people and if you didn't catch the last live stream, so what I said was reinstated is basically going to be within this official canon of Half-Life 2. But what's going to happen is that we're going to see a lot more of the Combine that we didn't see during the official games because that this is taking place somewhere else on Earth. And we're in a different setting, and we are in a different city, which is not as pristine as City 17. And for this one, we'll see a lot of urban decay, a lot of people. I know that City 14 was mentioned in the official game as well. So one of the things I wanted to do is show something a little bit different, as well as the environment, because I guess each city has its own synthetics and its own Combine-based units based upon the type of environment that they're in. So, for instance, the hunters are in the forest, and the you know, that's that sort of thing, and you know, it's just based upon different things in their environments. And for this one, because that, you know, they're more out towards the wasteland, and because there's more threats out there, there are a lot more different uh, units specifically for whatever they were doing, or what they're combating, I should say. So, and I like the overall creepiness factor of the beta, because you know, it's just much more darker, and you get to see a little bit more of what the Combine do. And I think that's why I feel that, you know, with being reinstated, that you know, the Combine need to definitely be shown in a more darker light than, you know, what we got, because we still don't really know much about them. They're still as much as an alien in the sense of the word itself. But yeah, so I do prefer both. And I'm glad. Thank you for watching Reinstated. You know, the team and I are working very hard on the next one, and I hopefully when it does release that you guys will love it. And as well as this project I'm working on for Shadowfall, it's a pretty ambitious project, but I hopefully that you guys end up loving it as much as I put all my heart and soul into it as possible. Hopefully, you guys are a lot of you guys are Sonic Adventure fans, because this project is really going to cater to a lot of those older fans from the first 3D titles. Um, I didn't talk about it before because the last live stream was more on Reinstated in you know, the universe of Half-Life. But basically, Shadowfall is going to be more along the timeline of the adventure games, and so I guess it just leaves the question of like, okay, story-wise, you know, hey, what's going to be considered taken into account here? Because you know, there's a lot of the Sonic franchise games that kind of branch off into different areas after the you know, main storyline was, you know, done in the mid 2000s, after Shadow the Hedgehog was finished. And I would say that so we're taking into account Sonic Adventure 1, definitely 2, and Sonic Heroes, Shadow the Hedgehog, And then here's where the little tricky part comes in. So I know this timeline is taking place within the world of Sonic Unleashed. However, this is like the adventure version of Unleashed. So there's going to be some things that are going to be retcon. So think of it as, okay, this Shadowfall is taking place along the main adventure games, and it's also set during the time of Unleashed, but it kind of has its own version. So there's the game version, and then this one is the adventure version of it. So I know that seems a little confusing, but because I wanted to follow more of a similar storyline and as well as have an own version for Unleashed, so like think of it as while Sonic and Chip are having their adventure, somewhere else, and then Eggman is, he's kind of running around the planet, and so he's got this whole thing going on here with the Shadow story as well. So think of it as kind of like there's different storylines going on and different characters crossing paths while they're having their own adventures, and Shadow's having his own here. So it doesn't mean that we might not see Sonic or anybody else, or maybe there's a mention of them somewhere, but each stories are happening in their own place, and at one point may cross over. I really hope to see the new chapter reinstated. It's amazing animation, really. The work with this lighting story is very cool. Adrian Shepard, is he your favorite character in Half-Life 2? Yes, Adrian Shepard is my favorite character in Half-Life. Now, I know a lot of people like to give Gordon Freeman the spotlight as far as, he's the main character, and, he's been through a lot. We played with him since the first game, and then we got him in the second games, and then we had our little, characters between. But I really like Adrian Shepard because I really felt like he got the short end of the stick, and he really went through. It's arguable if you say that he went through a lot more than Gordon did, and not to mention the fact that I think that in a way Adrian might be sort of he's got a lot more training, I feel, and a lot more experience, and knows how to exactly to pick off a lot more enemies a little bit quicker and strategize because of his Marine background training. And I feel that there's a reason why the G-Man picked him, is because that he can survive against all odds, quote unquote. Not to mention the fact that if you watch my last live stream, I did mention the fact that I do come from a military family, so we have backgrounds in the Navy, Army, and now Marines, because I have a relative who just started training with one of their programs there at what's it called, Camp Pendleton. So I really do like the fact that that there is a character they introduced that was from the military, and they kind of did it as realistically as they could possible at the time. And then me, I'm just molding it so it seems more realistic for when Reinstated comes around. Yeah, sorry about the live stream being at night, but unfortunately, guys, one of the things that you guys don't know about is that I do work during the day, and I also do classes. So I don't have time to really stream during the day. I'm more of a night owl. I do stream more at night than anything else, and that's the only time I really can. So usually when I'm not working and stuff, I usually can work it on it during the day, but unfortunately, because of how my schedule works, I can really only work on this kind of stuff at night. And yeah, I'm sorry, those of you who are streaming in, you guys are probably tired and asking, hey, can you hurry this up and could we go to bed? So yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I'm a bit of a night owl that way. I wish I can do it more in the day, but unfortunately, my schedule, as well as being able to talk to you guys, it's not really effective as far as if I were to do it during the day. So I'm very sorry about that. Andrew 1010, your animation work is amazing. Also, your premise sounds pretty sweet. Yeah, thank you. Again, it's just going back, and you have to really look. Oh yeah, and I'm pretty sure in Russia it's early morning. So for people who are on the other side of the world, because I do have a big following base who are from Europe, some people are from Great Britain, some Nova, who's a good friend of mine. I think he's still here on the chat. He's from France, and I got some people here from Russia. So for you guys, it's probably not a big deal, but for the people that are here in the U.S. with me, yeah, it's like late at night. Everyone wants to go to bed. Anyways, going back to what I was saying, yeah, it's just basically going back and looking at the previous titles of Sonic games and looking at all the aesthetics and just kind of molding it. You got to remember that these games were from a time of when 3D was just starting out, and a lot of things look. It's arguably that they looked good, and some of them didn't. It looked kind of outdated, and so now when I'm doing this movie, it's basically updating it and making everything look a lot more modern and refined. Obviously, a lot of the cutscenes in the games back then, they had to work with the tech that they were working with in order to make the scenery look as best as possible. And here, I'm just trying to get it as best as possible to kind of make it look more realistic, but at the same time, it looks just like it did during the those games. And a lot of you guys who did the who saw my recreation short of Sonic Adventure 1 for Station Square, you guys, it looks pretty much the more or less the same as the original game, but I also added a lot more things to it to make it look a little bit more refined and realistic because of the advancements in animation and hardware and technology for animation. So yeah, that was one of the things that I liked about it. And I feel also too that if you're, I was thinking about this today because what I'm using is Source. It's not the newest engine and it's not the most prettiest at times. But I think that again, it's like in the old days of filmmaking. I think that if you were limited in what you could do as far as your abilities, it allows you to get a little bit more creative, and that's what I've been trying to adopt. So I feel like if even if you are limited in some spots, it allows you to be a lot more creative in your craft, especially with animation. That's why I think a lot of people, when they saw the original recreation, they were like, "Wow, this is like this was done in this and that." This is probably one of the best Sonic animations around. Again, it's that's just what I'm just quoting what people said in the comment section when I was looking at it. But yeah, it's just basically seeing what you can do creative wise. If something doesn't work, see if you can find a way around it. And I think that's what a lot of people did in the old days. They just try to find ways to, if something didn't work, they just find another way around it. And trust me, I've had my fair share of running into things that didn't work for me when I'm doing this kind of stuff. So I had to figure a way out how to, get around it. Okay. All right, I think that looks good for right now. I'll probably just end up doing that one part later. Now you guys are probably wondering what I'm animating at the moment, and I'm going to tell you that I'm not going to tell you. And I really don't want to spoil what part of this in the story this is taking place in, but I did want to show you guys that, hey, I'm working on it, and it's and the reason why it's taking so long is because making shots like this can be incredibly complex in order to make it look good and at the same time look really juicy for the audience to watch. So yeah, that's why it's taking so long. So I think before I go, because I also have to get some sleep myself, I will show you one other scene I was working on recently, and hopefully you guys will love this one. Do I know any of the animators personally? I'm not sure if you mean by the Sonic Adventure team, or I'm not sure who you mean by that. If you mean by the Sonic Adventure people in the Sonic team, no, I don't know any of them personally. I actually do not know really of any professional animators other than the people that maybe I visited at Disney Animation Studios, and that's pretty much it. That's the only people I've ever really met. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and close this session out, and then I'm going to show you guys one other thing before we go. So what I typically like to do is I like to exit out, and then I like to go back in, so that way it doesn't eat up too much memory on Source Filmmaker. Unfortunately, one of the limitations of the software that I'm using is that it is 32-bit based, and Valve hasn't really been working on improving Source Filmmaker, and I think really they stopped back in 2015. I really don't know why they did that, but the problem is that because it's a 32-bit system, or I'm sorry, 32-bit based software, it just has a lot of memory issues as far as what it can hold. So there's a lot of limitations of what you can really work with when you put in your different assets. And I don't really care for it. I really wish it was 64-bit so we didn't have that problem, because one of the things that happens a lot is that this thing crashes like crazy if you're not careful. Let's see if this is it. I think this is, yeah. Okay, so what you guys are looking at is the modern build of Central City. There is one more thing I wanted to add to this scene. I don't know if it's in... I think I might have to do some compiling here, which is going to be kind of boring, but I do want to try to get it in. So if you guys have played Sonic Adventure 2, Central City is one of the main locations of where Shadow the Hedgehog is located in the game when he does his adventure. So like I know that Radical Highway is near here. And actually speaking of Radical Highway, there's a scene that takes place that's on Radical Highway of Shadow going to Central City. He's traveling along Radical Highway as he's going to Central City, and he is traveling along a different. It's after what happened to Shadow the Hedgehog. I take into account that the fact that after the Black Arms invasion, a lot of different buildings, a lot of different bridges, and a lot of different places in the city were damaged, and they had to relocate some places and rebuild things and reroute a lot of different places. So Central City is still looks the same, but what you'll notice a lot too, and I won't show it here, there is still a lot of construction going on in different places because this it does take place after that game, and we want to show that there's different places that are still needing construction of some sort. But this is one of the places that was rebuilt very quickly. And I think one of the aesthetics that's done to for Sonic the Hedgehog is that, and I really don't know exactly, it's very ambiguous, but supposedly this time era is like a combination of both I would say contemporary, technology. So stuff from the era of 2001, early, 2000s type stuff, to futuristic technology at the same time. So we see it's like a lot of different modern stuff that's in the Sonic the Hedgehog games, but then we have things like robots, we have like holograms, we have high tech flying military machines and stuff like that. And I guess in the way it's sort of, and this is really cool. This is how detailed the buildings are. Literally, there are roofs with doors on them, and you can literally shoot it basically in the city. This is how this is how detailed I built this set. I mean, literally, you can just find a spot and light it and model it, and you could just shoot wherever you want. I think this is like one of the most complex scene builds that I have done so far. It's so detailed that even the street even has these little cars and streets on it. I literally lit it so that way it looks like there's a busy street from the upward angle. That's how literally detailed this is. I've actually seen some really, I think that there are more impressive scene builds than what I've done here. I can't really quote off the top of my head, but yeah, there's definitely some I felt that are much more elaborate than what I've done here. So again, here it's like, you know, just basic stuff and construction still going on. This building over here was destroyed during the initial Black Arms invasion, so it looks like it's still being repaired. Again, just adds more to the lore and to the atmosphere overall. You know, some of the things you know, a lot of the early Sonic games had a lot of different advertisements on them, and you know, soap shoes. I actually just looked up the history on soap, and you know, their website is down nowadays. You know, you can't really buy shoes from them. I know when they were still around, when Sonic Adventure 2 was released in 2001, they got bought out by Heelys, and I was a kid at the time, and I actually bought the Heelys with the wheels in your heel. I'm not sure if any of you guys remember that. It was really popular with kids in elementary schools, and you know, everybody had to have them, and I did too. I mean, I sucked completely at it, but that was the same company that had bought out soap shoes, and I thought it was kind of a cool nod to keep them in here, because that's around. Because soap is still pretty prevalent within the universe of Sonic the Hedgehog, and they still have. So we still have to remember this is still kind of like the era of 2001 in sort of way, and yeah. Let's see. Let me see what you guys said. What is your favorite Sonic game? And oh, and it looks very vibrant and dense. Nice. Thank you, Andrew. My favorite Sonic game. Ooh. Okay. That is a bit of a I don't know what exactly I can define as my favorite Sonic game, because again, I liked all of the ones that were released up until about Generations. After that, I felt that I think the Sonic franchise started to go downhill, especially with like Boom and Rise of Lyric and all kinds of other titles. I haven't played Forces. I really am not interested in playing it. I just rather would watch people play it. So I think if I had to say what is my favorite game overall, I really don't actually have one, to be honest. Everything kind of ranks at a similar level. If I did have to say what games that I value the most, I would say is probably, you know, Sonic Adventure. That just did both the adventure games as well as like Generations and Unleashed. I really liked Heroes. I played that with some friends when I went over to someone's house one day for a party, and I really enjoyed that. So yeah. But something really interesting is that in order to build this elaborate city set, I actually had to look back at some of the old Godzilla films, because they used like these miniature sets in order for Godzilla to kind of walk through. And I'm going to be using sort of similar tactics when I do a lot of the big battle scenes between GUN and the Eggman Empire. Because again, we want to have this emphasis of feeling like we're in a big city, but you got to remember that this software is very old, and it's got a really bad memory limit on it. So you know, building these elaborate cities have to take fine craft as well as, you know, a lot of initiation and know where exactly you can put stuff and what and how much stuff you can put in it before it starts to, you know, lag on you. So I'm just kind of checking around the details and making sure everything looks good, and, you know, looking from the overall camera. So this is more of like a city shot. See, Sonic, my favorite Sonic is Sonic DX. Yeah, I know a lot of people want to see a remake of those games, and I know a lot of people want to see basically like maybe a Sonic Adventure 3. And to tell you the truth, I really don't think we're going to be getting a Sonic Adventure 3. It's basically the same thing, same deal with Half-Life 3. We're not going to get it because, you know, the companies have moved on. They have different interests, and if they did want to come back and do something like that, you know, everybody at the company would have to want to do it, you know. And nowadays we live in such a culture where a lot of the mainstream gaming culture has moved on to a lot of different things. And while there is a big majority of people that do want that, there's an even larger majority that want games like Fortnite or you know, some of these other games. And so that's what companies are focusing on more nowadays. And it's not to say that they haven't forgotten about games like this where they still want to do it. It's just that there's a big shift in the gaming culture from the time of when the adventure games and a lot of those old titles from when we were all kids were released to what it is like right now. The industry has changed a lot, and so that's why when franchises like this get left behind, a lot of the fans and a lot of independent filmmakers like myself usually pick up the pieces and begin and continue on with it, but just with lesser resources and help on hand. Why do you still use the software then? Do you have intentions of switching after this project is done? You know what? I actually think that might be a possibility. Yes, I still use this. I know there's a lot of limitations with it, but I still use it because it's very easy to use, as well as it's got a certain look to it that if you use the software correctly, it actually, you can pull it off in such a decent manner. Because again, Source Filmmaker, if you want to make it look good, you just got to learn how to use it. And it's the same thing with any other animation software. If you want to learn how to use something, it does take a while to know how to get around all of the basic. I mean, Source Filmmaker is already taking me years to figure out, because there's basically almost no tutorials on it from the official source link, and you have to kind of look around yourself from all the people who do use it. So the fact that this has already taken me a while to use, just imagine what it's going to be when I have to learn, you know, other software as well. I know there are some other animators who started off using Source Filmmaker. I know Sonic Pox, and I actually did a final project with him, and he released it, but he never really actually did end up finishing it to the full extent that he wanted it to do. But Sonic Pox started off using, you know, Source Filmmaker, and then he went off to do his university stuff as far as an animator, and he started using things like Maya, and I think he might have started using Unreal Engine. But the reason why he hasn't been around is because I think, you know, again, he's focusing on his university work, and he's also trying to learn how to use new software, and it does take a while if you want to get good at it. So, you know, if I do switch to another software, then that means I probably won't be releasing videos for quite a long time, because I'd have to learn how to use it before I can start making films and movies on it. So I'm waiting Half-Life more than 2 and less than 4. Yeah. Basically, so okay. So I just think I don't think I have the soap blimp in here. I might have to bring that up. Nope, it's not here. Okay. Let me bring it up. Maybe it's in Blender somewhere. Okay. Hang on. I gotta open up Blender. Here it is. Let me take a look at that. Yes, I have the classic blimp model from the Sonic Adventure titles, except this one was built by a custom modeler, and he allowed people to use it in their films. And it's much more high poly than the one used in the actual video games, and much more detail. Yeah, Nova, so Novarick, who's a good friend of mine, he's here on the chat. Yeah, he started using Unreal Engine 4 and switched over his entire base to it, and he knows a lot more about it than I do. And yeah, it's basically restarting from zero. You have to start from scratch and start learning your way up, because there's a lot that you need to know as far as using the interface. And so that's why I'm a little hesitant on going to a new piece of software so soon, because it means that you have to learn all the ins and outs of it, and you're basically resetting your skill level to zero, to zilch, nada, that kind of thing. Okay, let me check this out, make sure everything looks good. I really like this model because it's so clean. It looks so uniformly done. So yeah, as a matter of fact, I wonder if this model, because I do have a I started originally doing this from my other computer before I got my big one. Let's see, I learned 2D modeling, and yeah, I actually had started learning how to use Maya from a class that I took over the spring. And while I know how to use it a little bit more than if I had not taken the class, there's still a lot more that I don't know from it. And yeah, so I think I just have to practice with it more. As a matter of fact, I'm going to check some files real quick. I'm going to see if I have it as something backup, because otherwise I have to do the whole compiling process, and that's just sucky. Premiere. No, that's not it. Oh, I keep forgetting I don't have my special file within my user mod backup. Figures. All right, I guess we're just going to have to compile this. Yeah, I'll probably do that at another date. All right, so it looks good so far. So I'll save that, and I'll do the compiling later. Okay. Okay, then. Are all these models created from scratch? Yeah, the people. So I'm not a modeler myself, although I do actually model. Oh, I shouldn't say that. I mean, I do model a lot of stuff, but a lot of this complex stuff actually comes from different modelers who do this, and people from the workshop. Yeah, I would say a lot of these models do start from scratch, because a model can't really go anywhere if it's never if it's not started somewhere. So yeah, I would say so. I'm not the one who made them, at least most of them, but I do make a few of them. So I know for this scene in particular, there is a few that I had to make myself. Where is it? Hang on, I gotta put this back. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so like a lot of these custom logos right here, like the Vulcan logo and like the billboards and stuff, the textures, like this one particularly, I had to actually take a picture of the logo, because I like to emphasize the fact that some of the software I use does use Vulcan integrated technology. And I had to go into Maya, and I actually had to load the font in there, and then extract it, and then do all the texturing. So it seems really simple, but to even get stuff like this is a very tedious process. So yeah, that's why if I'm going to be doing modeling, I'd rather just hire somebody else. And to tell you guys the truth, I'm actually hiring a modeler for this project to do one of the characters from the comic books. Actually, there's going to be a whole bunch of them, so I'm going to be spending quite a bit of money to making sure that we get these characters in, because as well, even though there's Team Dark, who's going to be part of the main story, I did mention that there's going to be some human main characters in it as well. And I know a lot of people like to point guns at people who even mention the word human in Sonic the Hedgehog games. But trust me, I'm trying to make it as best as I can possible so that we don't have characters like that are like Chris Thorndike or Princess Elise from the Sonic 06 games. Yeah, I know I mentioned it. Don't shoot me for it. But those characters were so one-dimensional, and they just didn't sit well with the fans because they focused on. Well, it's not the fact that they just focused a lot more energy on these characters. It was because these characters had they didn't have any real story arc. They had no real personality to connect with. They didn't have anything that was, redeeming traits to them that made them, lovable for fans. And I think that, with any character, especially if they're going to be human here, you gotta at least have something that that connects with people. So I know that a lot of the soldiers that are going to be the main stars in this, as well as Shadow and Team Dark, I've written them so that a lot of these characters they're human, they're basically just they were just average people like you and me. A lot of them went to school, went to university. They took jobs afterwards, and then they found themselves working for GUN, trying to help the world against one of the most evil men on the planet, who's always building these robotic armies. And so again, that's where the realism and the fantasy kind of twist and turn with each other. We have these people who are they have emotions like you and me. They work for a living, and this is the sort of work that they do. One of the things that I had not even planned on before was that I think that the Sonic movie mentioned the fact that there was an officer that was going to join the movie, or there was some guy that was going to be an officer as a character in the official Sonic movie that's coming out. And I had actually written one of my characters who was a former Station Square police officer, and he's actually present in the recreation. He's the cop that points his pistol and is right next to Sonic when he jumps on the police hood. That's him. He's going to be one of the main characters here. But in this story, which is years later, he's now a GUN soldier, and he's working with the special ops group Spider Troop from the Sonic comic books. So he's not exactly a cop anymore, but he did his time with the Station Square Police Department, and he has a sense of duty, and he's also one of the goofiest guys on the team. So hopefully he does strike home with a lot of people. Any Fallout projects in the future, possibly, or are you not focused on that franchise? Not to say that it's out of the picture, but I only did the recreation because I had the different assets to remake something. So again, it's not out of the picture, but right now I'm not focusing on that franchise because I feel like there would be a lot more assets that I need in order to tell a story with that, because a story is only as good as if you have characters in it to tell a story about. And yeah, so I'm not focused on it right now because I also have to do a lot more lore searching. So there's a lot more story I would have to look up to make sure everything fits possibly great. One of the things, if I did have to have an idea in mind that I wanted to do for a story, it would have to be like something along the lines of what Fallout 4 was doing for their characters. I had characters in mind that woke up from cryostasis from similar to the Vault 111, and them going to the waking up in the future when everything was messed up. Except these guys are part of the government, and these guys are soldiers as well. So like I said, a lot of my films incorporate some sort of military in it, and I would like to see soldiers that were from World War II waking up in the future, and they basically are having to fight a lot of these creatures that ventured out in the wasteland. So that's just an idea that I had in mind. It's not really fully fleshed out yet, but it's something that I did want to try to get my hand in if I ever wanted to, because I'm a big history type person, and I would love to do something that would connect the past and the future together. So I guess that's it. Okay, I think there might be one other thing that I can do right now. I just want to check on. So I'm just going to exit out of this. So guys, we're almost done with the live stream here. There's one more session that I'm going to check on real quick, because I'm just making little tweaks and stuff to it, and then I get into the more meet and greet stuff when I'm more focused on doing it. So highway test. Map version, here we go. Okay, so those of you that are in the stream right now, you guys are going to get a special look at something that I had to tear some hair out for. And you guys are going to love this. This is Radical Highway. So that scene that I mentioned before, the building shot, this is it here. So Shadow is on the highway, and he's going to Central City. He's going to start his night mission. So this is it here. Okay, so this shot right here was probably one of the most elaborate that I've done. This is just, visually, it had to be perfect for me. So yeah, there's going to be some more stuff I'm going to add to it so it looks a little bit more realistic, but I did want to show Radical Highway and kind of like the bridge, the sunset. So it's kind of one of those familiar locations from Sonic Adventure 2 that Shadow is kind of like, going past. And this scene has a lot more meaning to it than just, what I'm animating here, what you guys are looking at. Because I think one of the things that I haven't discussed yet was that that I was discussing with some of my, people that are on my lore server on Discord, is that Shadow the Hedgehog is operating in a world where it loves Sonic much more than him. And every time he's driving around or where he's going, people, they don't really think of him as, Sonic. They think of him as this, like, this other hedgehog that is basically threatening their way of life in sort of way. Like, he could be a potential threat. He's seen more as a villain or an anti-hero than he really is an actual hero. Because one of the things that was explored in the adventure games was that Shadow the Hedgehog was meant to be a symbol. He's basically, I guess I'm saying that he's the cure supposed to be the cure for Maria, and Shadow is wasn't meant for warfare or for anything. That was more of a secondary purpose. Gerald Robotnik created him to be a cure for Maria because she had some kind of terminal illness, and that's why he was dubbed the ultimate life form, because he can basically, if he was created that way, something that could be extracted from him could be the cure for diseases and all sorts of stuff. That was his intended purpose. It wasn't meant to just be a weapon. But as with any good intention, with any good scientist, there's always one dude that ruins it for everybody and has to turn it into a weapon. And that was one of the if you guys watch the Shadow the Hedgehog sneak preview on my channel, you'll see the Colonel, and he was the guy that was behind the raid on the Ark. He was the one that instigated it. So, you know, it was largely believed that the whole UF government was in on it, but in fact, it was like some deep undercover spec ops thing that was done by this guy, and he's part of the reason why Commander Tower hates corruption within GUN and why he wanted to rid it. And he really hates this guy because he's the guy that killed his family and his friends, and when he eventually got older and was able to join GUN, he found a way to rid him of the organization and put him in jail. So yeah, so it's one of the things I was writing about it. Okay, everything looks good here. I'm gonna probably be adding more stuff within the week, but you guys probably won't be able to see that until later. I just kind of wanted to show you guys. I just tweak a couple of things here and there. Let me see. I think that's satellite right there. Bridge moved. Okay. Yeah. Okay. What part in here made you tear your hair out? See, here's the thing. This scene that's taking place right now. So here, let me go ahead and just extend the shot right. Okay, so this scene right here was literally like I had to find a way to get it so it's like this. And the reason why I say that is because this is a map right here. The version that I had it on before was a complete scene build. The water that I was using in order to get a good reflection to make it look more realistic, the water texture, for some reason, I don't know what the hell is wrong with Source, but I just couldn't figure out why it looked so funky and why it looked the way it did. So it looked really bad, and it just didn't look scene worthy to put in the scene. So I had to go back and I had to learn how to do map compiling, because there was a problem where there was some issues with, you know, the lights being here and everything was too bright, and I had to turn the lights off by a hammer. So I had to do a lot of map compiling, and I had to do a lot of, you know, stuff to make it work in SFM, and then I eventually got it to work. And what you're seeing right now is basically a sky texture that I put in there. So I can actually turn it off for you guys to see. So yeah, that's what it looks like. There's a big error right here, rendering error, for if you have ambient occlusion turned on. But because of how I positioned it, where is it? There it is. But because of how I positioned it, and thank goodness Source was working to my advantage, it reflects the sky dome here on the water, so it looks like the sun is coming off in the distance, and you can't see that borderline anymore, and it gives you more of that horizon type feel. But yeah, so to sum it up, map compiling and scene setup, that was the thing that really was like, this is so stressful. But I like the result. You can actually look at it, and it reflects everything perfectly, I think. So the bridge. And this is a really small miniature set, believe it or not. This is literally a huge water box right here, and the bridge doesn't really go anywhere. But that's the art of the scene. It's miniature. There's some stuff that I gotta fix. Okay. All right. I think that's going to be it for tonight. I'm going to go ahead and log out here. And, oops, hang on. Just want to be able to see a couple things. Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys for viewing in on the chat. And if you guys, have any more questions, you guys can definitely email me. I'm also on Discord as well. We have our Blue Blur Discord server here, where I am on, and Mr. Novarik, he's here as well, and he's one of the channel owners, or operators, I should say, and we run this huge place where all of Sonic promotion, content, anything that you can think of that's Sonic, it's all here. So you can definitely come here if you're one of these creators or just love Sonic in general. We just ask that you be respectful when you're here on the server. And yeah, but anyways, if you guys need to know what it is, it's called the Blue Blur Discord server. And that's where I am. And you guys are definitely welcome to come here because there's all kinds of different projects and good stuff besides what I'm doing. And we'd love to have more members and people that have a healthy relationship with the Sonic community and just love Sonic in general. All right, then. Well, other than that, thank you guys for joining me in this late night animation behind the scenes for Shadowfall. Hopefully you guys are put to ease. If you guys thought that I, wasn't working on it, I'm showing you guys I am. It's just taking a while because of how much writing and how much animating and how much time that needs to be spent on this. So, again, it might be a while since this project is released, but it's slowly being worked on one by one. It's just, it's a lot of timing and a lot of things I have to put into it. Okay. All right, then. Anyways, guys, thank you so much. Hopefully those of you guys that are in Europe have a great day. And those of you guys here in the US, go ahead and get yourselves a good night's sleep. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.